Halo has been around since the early 2000s. This franchise is one of the few that has remained relevant over the years, and it's helped shape the first-person shooter market that exists today. A huge argument has divided the Halo community for the past few years from one simple question. Which of the two companies that have developed this legendary shooter have made better Halo games? The developers that created the genre-defining shooter, Bungie, or the studio that Microsoft built to continue the Halo legacy, 343 Industries? So let's go ahead and get straight into this video. In today's video, we will be comparing the two studios by two different critiques, story and multiplayer. We will be breaking down each of these to truly find out which developer made the better Halo games. However, this is made from my perspective and I can only speak for myself. This is not at all considered facts, so keep that in mind. So before we start this video, let's go ahead and break down what studio made what Halo game. Bungie made Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, and Halo Reach. 343 Industries made Halo 4 and Halo 5, as well as Combat Evolved Anniversary, the Halo 2 Anniversary, which was part of the Master Chief Collection, and Halo Wars 2. They helped make all of these games as well. In terms of story, Bungie's Halo focused on gameplay, doing as much as possible without using any types of cutscenes or any kind of interactive scenes. They stayed clear of giving Master Chief a personality or even giving him really a voice. Besides the few one-liners that he did, they wanted you to picture yourself as Chief. To be honest, it worked. People loved it. This is not saying they did not know how to make an engaging story. Halo ODST and Halo Reach was both well tailored, and by the conclusion you understood everyone's struggle. Another thing that Bungie did extremely well is they didn't have very many dull moments in their storytelling. From how they explained the fall of the Arbiter to explaining the hatred that the elites had towards the brutes, and how he fought against them and the prophets for his people was amazing. The way that Bungie explained the story but always focusing on gameplay as much as possible is something that they really need to be praised on. 343 took a different approach when it comes to storytelling. They pretty much did the exact opposite that Bungie did. They decided from the start to give Chief a voice and a personality. They also gave him an intimate relationship with Cortana. There is more character development in the last few hours of Halo 4 than pretty much all of the other ones up to that point combined. The simple fact that they turned Cortana into a raging AI that is bent out on saving the universe through any means necessary shows that 343 does focus a lot on narrative-focused story. 343's biggest issues, they're not as good at communicating with the player and telling the story in a creative way than Bungie was. 343 expects you to know all the backstory behind all the novels, all the books, to understand what's going on in their games. For those of you that don't know, the main antagonist on Halo 4 didn't even die when you knocked him off that tower. He actually died later on with the same people that Master Chief's with in Halo 5. They went down to that planet for a completely other reason, and they ended up killing him there. You wouldn't have even known that from Halo 4 to Halo 5, and 343 has done a horrible job explaining their story. So when it comes to making a better Halo story, from how they tell the story to how they build up and develop the characters, who does it better, Bungie or 343? That is a tough call. Personally, I'd have to go with Bungie. 343 might have an overall better concept and where they want to head with their story. However, I feel Bungie tells their story way better, and with the original trilogy, Bungie was on a completely different level than 343's current Halo games. The story of how Arbiter and Master Chief went from bitter enemies to actually respecting each other to actually being friends. The fact that they let you take on the perspective of the elites and see the effects of the original Halo and the consequences of letting the ring get destroyed was a genius move back then. And that was the foundation to what helped Bungie become one of the most respected developers at that time. As fun as the single player campaign in Halos are, to a lot of gamers, the core focus that the majority of them stick around for Halo is the multiplayer. So let's go ahead and break down the multiplayer for both of these developers. First, let's go over what I personally feel makes Halo's multiplayer so amazing. That would be the map control. What I mean by that is everyone spawns in with the exact same weapon, and every map has sections that you can pick up different weapons. So it's not just about killing the enemy Spartans, it's about controlling the side of the map that has the sniper spawns, or maybe the rocket launcher, or maybe the shotgun, or the energy sword. The game makes you decide what weapons are more important to you as a team and what you feel comfortable letting your opponent have. Do you have a good sniper on your team? If you do, you might want to control the side of the map that has the sniper. If no one's good with the sniper, maybe you want to control the side of the map that has the rockets and the shotgun. That is one of the biggest aspects that I feel like Halo's always had, is that map control, that feeling that, oh, if they get those rockets, they might use them to carry themselves to victory. Some of the best moments I remember was pushing the enemy team to make sure that we got where that shotgun was. We knew it was about to spawn, we knew we needed it. We knew that, you know, throwing grenades down there, sure we'd be out of grenades by the end of that encounter, but if we were successful in taking that room when that shotgun spawned, we would have a huge advantage for the rest of the map. Now, I'm not saying that the map themselves aren't not important. They are extremely important. But I do feel like if you took the weapon control out of Halo entirely, that would devalue the game almost instantly. Bungie's multiplayer defined console online experience and was successful from the start. Halo 2 single-handedly gave the original Xbox an identity, and Halo 3 gave Microsoft a brand. The games did so well and was so helpful to Xbox that I don't even know if the brand Xbox would be around today without it. In a way, Microsoft has Bungie to thank for the success of the 360 and for them surviving the Red Ring of Death. Bungie helped make fighting for a weapon on a map more successful and more mainstream. Them deciding to make it to where you couldn't sprint, to make it to where you couldn't aim down sights, it made that kind of gameplay a classic, and it helped breathe life into the Halo brand when it first started. They also had cool fun tools that you can use, like the bubble shield, the drainer, the gravity lift, and I always enjoyed using those. Bungie also was very good at making well-made maps that was extremely balanced. However, they did start to add features in later games such as Halo Reach, abilities such as armor lock, sprinting, jetpack, decoys, as well as rolling. Sure, there was abilities you didn't have access to all the time. They were kind of like the loadouts from Call of Duty or Halo, where it was like a special ability that you can do anytime you wanted. It did have a cooldown. After that, Bungie ended up leaving Microsoft, and they left the Halo IP with Microsoft. Now, in terms of multiplayer, 343 Industries, they added features such as aim-down-sights and sprinting in the game, as well as they actually implied loadouts, which took a lot of the map control out of the game. So pretty much they made a Call of Duty with Halo weapon. Oh, and did I mention there was actually kill streaks as well? To a lot of the Halo community, this was by far the worst Halo multiplayer experience that has ever been in Halo. And that was not a good look for 343 Industries coming into their first real big title, their big first Halo title, Halo 4, and the multiplayer was such a letdown to the entire Halo community. So then we moved on. So now it's 2013. And then they finally announced Halo 5. But at this point, there is little to no faith in 343 with the Halo brand at this point because of what happened with Halo 4. And all the community really could do was just wait for Halo 5 to drop. Thankfully, they didn't have to wait the entire time it took to make the game. On December 29, 2014, 343 launched a month-long beta, dropping new stuff every week and adjusting off player feedback from the community. So during the beta, we found out a lot of things. Some of the things we found out was they're still going to keep ADS, aim-down-sights, in the game, and sprinting. Oh, and that's not all 343 added. They actually added movement changes as well. Now you can dash in any direction and even do a more directed dash that can actually hurt enemy Spartans as well. They actually added a drop dash that you could drop on an enemy Spartan and hurt them with that. You could even hover in the same place for a certain amount of time, giving you a better sight overall to shoot enemy Spartans with. Even with all those changes, the Halo community felt like the game was in a good place from the beta. 343 took an approach that shocked a lot of people. They pretty much admitted what they'd done in Halo 4 was not the direction that Halo needed to go, and scrapped a good amount of it, pretty much all of it. So obviously there were some things that did come back from Halo 4. Sprinting was one of them. However, when you sprint, your shields does not regenerate, so that did a little bit of a balance to keep it more centered around the roots of Halo, but also let it go into the modern ages a little bit. Another feature that came in from Halo 4 was ADS, Aim-Down-Sights, but there was a catch. They did something a little bit different. When you do it and you are shot in it, you'll instantly get shot out of it. So if you keep trying to use your sights and the enemy Spartan that you're shooting is hip firing like that old traditional Halo, he's going to have a drastic advantage, and 9 times out of 10 he's going to win that encounter. The beta got a great feedback. Even famous, the channel Halo Faller said in their review of the beta and their impressions on it that the game felt like Halo, and 343 did an amazing job bringing Halo into the next age in a very smart way. So Halo 5 finally drops. We're on launch day. The multiplayer was still praised by the majority of the Halo community. Now, I don't really know if it was because it was such a great multiplayer experience, or if it was because it was such a drastic improvement from Halo 4 that it gave the hope to the fans, to the Halo community, that maybe 343 can actually pull this off and take Halo in a good direction. So, who made the better multiplayer experience? Was it the company that came up with the standards to how Halo should feel, or the studio that took that foundation and made it more modern to today's standards? This is a hard one for me. So I personally feel like in terms of today's standards, multiplayer wise, I believe 343 makes the better multiplayer game. Although Bungie kept it more of a classic in how they stayed away from sprinting and ADS, however, they did apply it into Halo Reach along with rolling in armor lock. So I do feel like the argument over sprint is invalid because Bungie was moving towards that type of gameplay in the first place. So if your argument is that Bungie makes better Halos because they added sprint, I kind of think you're wrong, because to me, Bungie put sprint in Halo first, not 343. I think when it comes to this, we have a case of hating on a developer that was forced to be the bad guy because they did something the last developer was heading towards, but left before doing so. As I said, in Halo Reach, Bungie put sprinting in the game. So I do feel like going forward, if they would have made a Halo 5, I thoroughly believe, because they put it in Halo Reach, that it would have been in Halo 5. So with the single player and the multiplayer in mind, who does make the better Halo? Bungie or 343? I would have to say Bungie, just because of the fact that they not really had any misses. 343 made a wonderful multiplayer for Halo 5, but the story fell short. And a lot of people felt like Halo 4 was the exact opposite. 343 has a long way to go in the terms of story. They need to explain better to players what is going on without expecting them to read multiple books. They also need to stop false advertising the narrative in commercials. I really hope they can achieve making a better story, because I do feel like this is the biggest thing that makes them fall short of Bungie. But when it comes to 343, the one thing that they are doing well and they keep improving is the multiplayer. I feel like a few minor changes and they have gold there. I like the direction they're taking Halo, and I'm willing to admit that Bungie makes a better Halo. The difference is I'm not going to act like the world is burning and tell everyone that will listen that 343 is destroying the Halo brand, because that's simply not the case. They even took extra time out of the development cycle to rewrite the story, as well as design an engine called the Slipspace from scratch, and the very first game that's going to be made on this engine is Halo 6. Sure, they've dropped the ball a few times, and I hate that they did that. Most developers have dropped the ball at one point or another. In a lot of ways, a lot of people feel like Bungie dropped the ball of Halo Reach. So who do you guys think make the better Halos? Put it in the comment section. Is there any statement that I made that you might disagree with? Be sure to put that in the comment section too. Now remember, this is just my opinion. I personally enjoyed 343's games more, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Bungie didn't make the better Halo game. I'm admitting this. But it's like I said, I'm not going to act like 343 is completely dropping the ball in every corner, because that's just simply not the case. And remember, it's my opinion and should be taken as such. I'm a huge fan of both Halos, both studios, both their work. I'm a huge fan of Destiny, and that's what Bungie's doing now. Halo's been a huge part of my life, and I want Halo 6 to be truly amazing. So if you enjoyed this video, definitely hit that like button, share it to all your friends that like my content, get to as many people as possible. This has been a very long video. I appreciate anyone that stuck around. This is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.